What if a few tiny code changes could give back 100 terabytes of memory across the internet? Welcome to the Automated Daily, Hacker News Edition, the podcast created by Generative AI. It's August 28th, 2026, and today we're looking at a possible power move in open source AI, a surprisingly big efficiency win in core internet infrastructure, and a few signals that AI is starting to shape not just software products, but the language developers use and the job market they work in. This episode is brought to you by CrispCall. CrispCall provides agentic cloud telephony for modern businesses. Find the link in the episode notes. Let's start with AI industry news. In a new development in the story we've been following, Nvidia is reportedly in recent talks to acquire Hugging Face in a deal that could value the company at more than $13 billion. Nothing is final, and the talks could still fall apart, but even the possibility is significant. Hugging Face sits at the center of the open source AI world, so if Nvidia were to take control, it would raise obvious questions about how neutral that platform could remain. For Nvidia, it would also be another way to extend influence beyond chips and deeper into the tools and communities that developers rely on every day. Staying with AI, one of the more interesting arguments circulating today is that small models may finally be crossing from impressive demos into practical business tools. The core idea is simple. A model does not have to be the smartest in the world if it is fast, cheap, and good enough to handle repetitive work reliably. That matters because cost has been one of the biggest blockers for consumer AI products. When every interaction carries a real expense, many app ideas stop making sense. If that cost drops to just a few cents per task, a lot of previously shaky business models suddenly look viable. So the next wave of AI may not be driven only by frontier systems, but by efficient models that quietly handle the everyday workload. There's also an interesting culture signal from GitHub. A large vocabulary analysis covering more than 461,000 pull requests found an unusually strong cluster around the phrase load-bearing, along with other very specific wording patterns. The suggestion is that AI-generated writing, especially from certain model styles, may be influencing how developers talk to each other in code review and project discussions. This is less about any one phrase and more about what it reveals. Language habits from AI systems can spread into human collaboration, and once they do, they start to shape tone, norms, and maybe even how technical judgment gets expressed. That broader concern shows up in a new warning from Bill Gates, who says AI has already entered a turbulent period and that the big decisions are arriving faster than society is prepared for. His point is not just that AI is powerful, but that it can spread unusually quickly because it works through devices and interfaces people already use. He argues that job disruption could hit both white-collar and blue-collar work, with entry-level roles especially exposed. He also points to risks like fraud, disinformation, cyber attacks, and surveillance. Whether or not you agree with his framing, the important part is this. Mainstream voices are now treating AI less as a future possibility and more as a present governance problem. Now to internet infrastructure, where Cloudflare shared one of those engineering stories that sounds niche until you hear the scale. The company says it reduced memory use in its DNS cache by more than 50% per entry, which adds up to roughly 100 terabytes of RAM saved across its systems. It also got a speed boost at the same time, with faster inserts and lower lookup latency. Why does that matter beyond Cloudflare itself? Because DNS is one of the internet's basic utilities, and at that scale, even tiny inefficiencies become massive costs. Recovering that memory means bigger caches, fewer upstream queries, and a little more headroom for one of the busiest pieces of the network stack. And finally, a lighter one. The classic reference 507 mechanical movements now has an online animated version that brings many of its mechanisms to life. It is still a work in progress, but the idea is immediately appealing. Instead of looking at static diagrams, you can watch the movements play out. For engineers, students, and anyone who likes clever machines, that makes an old technical resource far easier to absorb. It is also a nice reminder that not every valuable internet project has to be new technology. Sometimes the win is making older knowledge more accessible and more intuitive. Thanks to our sponsor, Stock MVP. Stock MVP helps you invest like the pros using data-driven insights. Find the link in the episode notes. That's it for today's edition of the Automated Daily, Hacker News Edition. If you want to dig into any of these stories, links to all of them are in the episode notes. I'll be back tomorrow with more from the Hacker News front page.